My name is Nicole Kunkel. I'm a data visualization specialist with Flourish. Also a big fan of telling stories with data, and I'll be your host today for unlocking the power of data storytelling with Flourish and Canva. Great to meet all of you. Little bit of information about me. I'm located out of Austin. Was happy to see some Texans in the chat, originally from Mexico City. So it's always a lot of fun to see where everyone's located before we get started. Today's agenda, I'm going to go over some high level introduction of what this webinar is going to be like. And then I'm going to speak to some principles of data storytelling. So no matter what tool you use for your data visualization, you can take data storytelling practices wherever you go, whatever tool you use to enhance your skills in this area. Then we're going to get hands-on with Flourish when it comes to putting data storytelling into practice, and then move into how to effectively use animation. From there, I'll show you some examples of Flourish in the wild and leave you with some other resources. So by the end of this session, what I hope for you all to walk away with is being able to navigate Flourish with ease, know how to build a chart from scratch, how to use navigation with different chart types, and also feel inspired by all of the possibilities when it comes to the charts that you can make with Flourish, how you can animate your charts, and the types of stories that you can tell with your data. So with that, let's jump into Data Storytelling 101, laying the groundwork. I'm sure we've all probably seen these complicated dashboards. And instead, what we want to do with data storytelling is break down what the key message is and lay it out in a way that where someone sees this and just in an instance knows what the takeaway message is. So you don't have to dig around that dashboard anymore or look up certain formulas to find what is the key insight. We can just look at something and right away know. A lot of other tools are really good at data visualization, which is a mix of the knowledge of data, the knowledge of visuals, and putting these things together. And certainly these are really powerful tools for that. But for a data storytelling framework, we want to go beyond just finding our story with data visualization. That's going to be the first step. We want to find the story, but then we want to tell the story in a really compelling way. That's where this storytelling piece comes in. So we're going to add clarity, purpose. We're going to think about our audience, what's going to resonate with them. And then we can use other things like scrolly telling, animation, etc., to enhance this story and really make it stick. When it does stick with our audience, we're usually tapping into emotion, allowing them to maybe explore with pop-ups, all features that are all built into Flourish. So in getting started with this data storytelling framework, let's start with what's out there, this landscape, and how we're going to move to data storytelling away from just finding the story and how we differentiate ourselves. So there's a lot of tools out there for you to find data to begin with, or pull your data in somewhere for you to then be able to analyze it or manage it in a tabular format and then be able to visualize it. So this is that first step to being able to find insights. What is worth talking about in the first place? But if I'm looking at data like this, this is not a very compelling way for me to tell you a key message. If I just gave you a data sheet like this and told you, well, here it is, this is what's important, that might not resonate very much with you. So when we use visuals with our data, then we can start to see certain trends. Are there similar magnitudes? What do the trends look like? Is there growth? What are the relationships? And now it's much easier to start telling a story. But we don't want to just stop there with data and visualizing it. With Flourish, we're going to move into data storytelling by adding a component that is adding narrative to the data visualization. So now let's talk about like this area of visual communication. Canva is one of the leaders of visual communication, and certainly you can use Canva charts to tell stories with data, but the one tool that really specializes in only data storytelling when it comes to this visual communication piece is Flourish. So Flourish is going to be a tool that comes in after your data analysis, specifically to communicate your insights really effectively with that framework that I just presented to you. I like to ask myself, if I put up my Flourish visualizations, would I even have to be in the room for my message to get across? The key point here is that narrative is going to help you make sure that your audience cares about your message, listens to your message, and then remembers your message long after your meeting, presentation, whatever it may be, whatever format you are presenting your visualizations in. So how do we add narrative to something like data? Surely we're all used to hearing stories, having been told stories, fairy tales growing up, whatever it may be. We all know what stories are, but we might not be used to applying storytelling to data, much less data visualization. Well, typically with a good story, there's a hook, right? Something that makes us want to listen. So let's translate this into data visualization. So with data visualization, there could be a moment where we see the data change. There could be a really interesting data point, like an outlier, or some unusual outcome, an unexpected pattern, an unexpected change that we didn't see coming. So these all make for really good stories. So we want to find the hook, because certainly a good preliminary data visualization is a good way of understanding what's going on. But if we really highlight the hook, then this is going to be much more exciting for people. Now, you should never manipulate your data to lie about what's actually going on with the data, but we can highlight key things, right? So even if something is looking kind of boring, or things didn't work out the way you wanted to in an experiment or in research or in how you collected your data, that's still a story. And that's still a story worth telling as well. But here are some examples of what could be a hook when it comes to your data storytelling. So now I want us to put into practice in the chat, finding the hook, looking at a single chart. And then we're going to put some data storytelling into practice. So by showing you just this one chart, I'd like for you all to take a few moments and just think about what could possibly be a hook when you look at these different lines, trends, and patterns. When you think of something, please go ahead and share it in the chat. Okay, seeing some great answers in the chat. People raising questions. What could have happened at certain dates? Sustained growth of certain products, a spike in 2012, that's a key year. A peak in January 2024, some people focusing on product 3, some focusing on product 4. All to say, there's no wrong answers, because I didn't necessarily highlight one key message when it came to this chart. So this is an example of just visualizing data, and I didn't add any sort of narrative component, right? So I left it to you all in the audience to come up with these narratives yourselves. So what could I do as a data storyteller to add narrative and tell the story that I might want to tell? And this is just an example, right? Not to say that this was the right answer, because as we just saw, there's a lot of different takeaways that we could take from just one single chart. So if I wanted to highlight one thing in particular and not have my audience come up with a lot of different stories, I could start by changing the title and then highlighting the product I want my audience to focus on. I could also clearly label the lines. That way you don't have to move your eyes between the legend here on the left-hand side and try to find the line. It's much easier to read it directly on the line. That takes away some work for the audience. And then I could add an annotation to give you some extra context that a new feature was dropped in 2018, which led to a resurgence in product for purchasing. So what did I just do? I went from just having a descriptive title that just described the data visualization itself to actually putting the story, the data story, in the title. I went from using multiple colors to highlighting that one product that I wanted you all to focus on. I actually think gray is a really undervalued color, especially with data visualization. It can be really effective to use gray. Start there and then only add color where it's really emphasizing your key message and takeaway. Then I moved the legend from below the title, opted for direct labeling of my lines, and also added annotations where it added extra context to the story. All right, how did I know to do all of this? At Flourish, we've come up with a 5-point framework. So to think about these 5 things as you move forward in designing any sort of data visualization, starting with defining your story, then choosing a particular chart type that suits that story's needs, making sure that your numbers are accurate, transparent, and easy to follow, using color effectively, and using your labels effectively as well. Now, all of the needs of every single chart might look a little bit different. So it's kind of subjective how you apply this to every single chart. But using these guidelines as things to think about when it comes to data storytelling helps enhance your message. So just to put these 5 considerations into an example for just some added clarity, when it comes to story, we can put that in the title itself. And then I chose a story that's focusing on trends. So secondly, that chart type consideration you should make. I decided to make this into a grid because I think that then I can visualize the trends a lot easier and compare them more easily than I would with these lines on top of each other. So opted for this grid here for trends. And now I'm talking about millions of dollars. So I'm going to format my numbers on the y-axis accordingly in a way that's going to make a lot of sense for my audience. I don't want a bunch of trailing zeros. That can take up a lot of time trying to make out what exactly that number is. Using color strategically, which I spoke to earlier. So using gray and highlight color. And then I'm adding that annotation right here as well. So it's the same data, similar story, but I've framed it slightly differently. So you can see the message is slightly different, and there are definitely different stories, completely different stories in the chat. But this is just another example of how you could still tell an effective story with the same considerations. It's not necessarily wrong, but now focusing slightly on something different and framing it in a slightly different way. All right. So we've been working through this framework. I've shown you all how we can tell a story with our data visualizations. Using this 5-point framework, it's going to be a much clearer story for our audience. And then there are things that we can do to help make it stick a lot more. And Flourish has a lot of these other features that make it resonate a lot more emotionally. We want people to take action after a lot of our presentations or after reading some of our content. So I'm going to introduce you to some of those features now. When we tell a good story with our data visualizations, people are going to be left wanting more, right? So a way to start resonating with people emotionally, we can embed images and videos in our Flourish visualizations really easily. Here's an example where I inserted an image in the background. So this feels much more immersive than just looking at a basic chart. We can further customize our content in our captions and our pop-ups with HTML and CSS. We could further embed images, videos, other content there. Here's an example of what that can look like. It helps us layer some more information. So with this pop-up, we have some more charts, some images, a banner up top. So people, if they want to seek out more information, they can do so. So now that I've introduced you to some more of these Flourish features and some data storytelling principles, let's start getting hands-on with Flourish. And what we're going to do first is take a spreadsheet and turn that into a chart with Flourish, and we are going to use our data storytelling skills to make this a very clear, easy to follow chart. All right. I'm going to start with this spreadsheet. And if you don't mind helping me share this in the chat, I would appreciate it. And it would be helpful as well if you go ahead and open up Flourish in another tab. We could have that link in the chat for convenience. That would be helpful as well, please. If you don't have a Flourish account, that's all well and good. You can start for free today if you'd like to follow along. Otherwise, feel free to just watch. And if at any point you fall behind and you're trying to follow along, remember you do have the recording. Try to go at a slow enough pace for people to follow if they'd like to. Otherwise, you can always come back to this recording. If you have a Canva account, you can also log in with your Canva account today. So once you have the data pulled up in one tab or window, I'm going to recommend we start with Flourish and log in. You'll have a view that looks similar to this, but if you've never used Flourish before, you won't have visualizations here. These are visualizations that I've created. So anytime you create your visualizations, you'll find them here. You have the option to create folders for yourself, nest folders, and this gives you some organization. So maybe you don't want as messy of a space as I have. And then for our paid customers, they have a shared folders space to collaborate. Today, go ahead and click into new visualization. For new users, this might be in the center of your screen. You might get some pop-ups guiding you if this is your first time logging into Flourish, telling you a little bit about the UI and the interface. You can go ahead and just close out of those and ignore those if they come up for you. When you click create new visualization, this is what I think of as like this candy storefront of all of the different charts that you can make with Flourish. So if you are a data nerd like me, you could spend all day browsing all of the templates that we have. There are over 100 of them, but for time's sake, we won't do that on the webinar. Feel free to come back and browse if you'd like. You can choose a template that you'd like to start out with, or you can filter templates on this left-hand side. So say I know I want to make a design with circles, and my data is talking about change over time. This is going to help me make a decision much faster than having to browse all of those chart types if needed. I'm going to reset this now. We also have just launched our Start with Data function. So if you clicked this tab, you'd be able to upload a data set or copy and paste data in like a CSV format. And then Flourish will suggest chart types for you based on the type of data that you're working with. But today we're going to start with a template, and we're going to go ahead and make a bar chart with the data that I've pre-prepared for us. Anytime that you choose a Flourish template, you'll notice that there are some dummy data that come preloaded. So let's take a look at that in the data tab a little bit more closely. The reason that Flourish is going to preload with these dummy data is because all of our templates work off of data format. So for this bar chart, for instance, we need at least one column that provides the labels of the bars and another column that is providing the numeric values of the bars. Column A is text type. Column B is numeric data. The third data type that you can provide is date time if needed. So that's where you would change data types, and you could reformat, say, your dates if you'd like them to appear a different way on the actual visualization. You can change the output format if they are input differently. So to change your data, you can always upload data right here in any tabular format. Today, I'm going to go ahead and just clear the sheet from right here. Now I'm going to go back to the sheet that I shared with you all, and I'm going to select the data itself that I want to visualize. I'm going to copy this into my clipboard, so Command C for Macs or Control C for PCs. And then I am now on cell A1. Make sure that if this comes up for you, all of the data will come up in cell A1. So just click into A1 once and have it all highlighted. And then I'm going to paste the data in. I'm going to tell Flourish, yes, I want to paste. And you should see your data into Flourish like this, come into Flourish like this. The bottom right-hand side, there should be an updated preview of those data. When I upload data, I like to double check. Yes, column A does provide the labels. It's a text type format. Column B is numeric and are the numeric values. Once I've given myself that sort of sanity check, I'll go back to the preview here, and it looks like everything has loaded in correctly. Great. So here I can give my visualization a name. I'm going to go ahead and call this Top Dogs of New York City. So it's easy to find in my account. I'll even put a date, so have a way to find this version. Versioning with Flourish, you can make duplicates here. All right. And then for our paid customers, we do have themes. So this is a quick way to apply certain fonts, color palettes, do certain formatting that you might want consistent across all of your charts when you publish. So if there's a certain look or feel to my chart that I want consistent, I might apply a theme as a paid customer here. Then I'm going to go over to the header section. And again, starting with my data storytelling principles, think about the takeaway message that I want for my chart. I've provided a header that provides the story here. So feel free to copy and paste this in or come up with a different story yourself. And then I like the subtitle to describe the data. So that's where I'm going to put the descriptive title so that my end user, the reader, can know what exactly is it that they're looking at right there. Great. If I were working with dollar amounts, I could format my numbers here, percentages, but that's not the case today. Just know that that function exists under normal number formatting, within Flourish. And looks like a good start. Right now, I have to hover over the bars in order to get the exact number of dogs named a certain name. And for just added clarity, I can go to labels and opt to show the labels on the data point themselves. I think this is a faster way to get information if I were reading this chart. So I'm going to leave that option on today. And then for highlighting Bella, since that's the story I'm focusing on, I'm going to go to colors, and I have to make sure that color by row is selected. This allows me to have different colored bars throughout, because that corresponds with the different rows in the data set behind this visualization. I also have to make sure that extend is off. That's going to be an option where the palette just infinitely extends until every single row is uniquely colored. And Flourish will infinitely extend that palette based on the tones and hues of the palette. Now I can opt to edit my color palette, and I can start deleting colors. Remember, I said I like starting with gray, so I'm going to leave a gray color here. And then I'm going to copy this red color as my highlight. If I don't like this gray, I can click into the gray and make it a little darker. And then for custom overrides, I can hover over any of these gray question marks to get a little bit more information about any of these settings in Flourish. This is telling me, hey, to change the color selectively of any of your elements, you have to give the name of the bar, followed by the name of a color, a hex code, or an RGB value. So I'm going to paste that hex code there, and now Bella is going to be highlighted. This legend isn't adding any additional information, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the legend off. And under this legend tab, I can go ahead and also color Bella the same color as the bar, Bella in the header. So now this is acting as a legend as well, the header text. All right. I think this is a great chart. I can preview how it's going to look like on a desktop, tablet device, or mobile device. These all look good. So I'm ready to export and publish this. Once I do this, I can preview what it's going to look like using this public view link. And then when I want this to go live, I can just grab this script embed, copy and paste this into my CMS, and the chart itself will be live. You also have some download options or add to Canva right here directly. So that's how you're going to make any Flourish chart from scratch with some data storytelling principles as well. Now, if we wanted to animate a chart, we can do so with any chart type. I think this is a great functionality to break down big, complicated data sets. You can break down pieces of information bit by bit with animation as to not overwhelm your end user or audience. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Here's just one way that we could animate the views of some data. And the way we can do this is through our data story, creating a story, in Flourish. Anytime you create a story, notice that there's no editor panel on the right-hand side. Now we're just focused on how we want to layer charts, move through charts on this left-hand corner. You can add new slides with this button. Choose your visualizations, which is why I think it's important to name your visuals in a way that can be easily identified. And then you can have options here as to how you want to navigate through the slides up top, or make this a story that plays on its own. Some people even add audio to self-playing stories, and then that gives a totally hands-off experience. Great for web embeds where you just want something to run on its own. Or I might have something that plays by itself in a presentation where I might not have so much control over the clicking, the movement of the slides, and I've just practiced the timing of things. We can also animate our maps. So this is a map that has points that are animating over time, but then we can also get really neat hover over effects whenever we want to zoom into different places. So it gives this really advanced look and feel, but it's actually the same story view that gives us this effect. So we can go ahead and do that with this example. With these slides, here are some points happening with UFO sightings, coinciding with UFO sightings. And then all we've done is zoom into someplace in the map and then chosen this button right here to add some annotations. You can zoom out to a different spot on the map, and Flourish will automatically hover over to this spot on the map. And likewise right here. The easy way to create this effect, instead of adding the visualization from this button, you can simply duplicate the slide from the same chart. And now zoom elsewhere for your flyover effect. From here in Ireland towards Saudi. Cool. So now let's take a little bit of time to look at Flourish in the wild. We've got a great example of some beautiful best practices from WPP that put together some beautiful, gorgeous visualizations with Canva and Flourish. We have a blog post here about it and some examples that you see on screen. Really best in class when it comes to the use of color, the design, and pushing the boundaries of what's art and what's data visualization, in my opinion. We've put together a wide collection here for you all to enjoy when we send out the materials from this webinar today. If there's any chart that you really like and want to get more of a feel for, you can open that up, interact with it, and then also, like I just showed today, click on the duplicate and edit button to have a version of this for yourself within your own Flourish account. And then you are free to explore the settings in this editor panel and the data to understand how this chart was created. These collections are really used for our customers for their inspiration to enhance kind of where their Flourish skills are at. And we have some more collections as well that speak to different industries, different themes like climate change. We have some for financial services, for data analysts, so also by roles. If you are interested in something in particular, I would say we have so many that just please reach out to us. We have some for marketing, just really a broad range. So it just depends on what you are looking for. And we are happy to share out our sort of inspiration, our inspo collections for our users. Just to speak to, again, different ways that we can share our charts once we've created these beautiful visualizations. I've shown you all how we can publish with one click up here with the export and publish option. But Flourish also allows you to connect to live data sources as a paid customer, excuse me. So our paid customers can connect to live CSV sources via Dropbox, GitHub, and Google Sheets right there with a click of a button. And we also have an API for even more flexible data connectors. And just before you go, some new exciting features that just dropped for you all. I showed you all Start with Data feature. It allows you to upload your data and have charts suggested to you based on your data format and data type. So a quick way, if you don't know where to start, to have suggestions for you. And we have also just launched a new version of our app within Canva. So this allows you to log in with your Flourish account or with your Canva account. You'll see some of our most popular templates when you open up the Flourish app, or this tab on the top right. As an alternative, you can access your projects there directly. And then from there, you can go to quickly edit your chart if needed within Flourish. We have a safeguard, so if you do go to edit this chart and it's already embedded in Canva charts or somewhere else, you'll get this pop-up that says, hey, do you want this to be edited across everywhere or not? Would you rather just duplicate it for yourself? Another thing, when you do publish a chart, I do want to just point out, if you ever did make changes to it, Flourish is going to recognize this and turn yellow with this export and publish button. And with just with just clicking republish, all of the changes will go live wherever this chart is embedded online, whether that be in a Canva design, in your website, wherever this may be. All of those changes are now live. So gone are the days of having to manually go in and delete your old chart, put in a new chart that you've downloaded as an image. And that's all for today.